So there's this really great quote in the Gene Keys book by Richard Rudd that goes something like this: how can you truly love somebody if you think that you know them? And this was a quote that really hit home and that I've held in my contemplations over the years. And we're in the 62nd gene key at the moment as it moves through the gate of the sun. And I thought it was a great time to sit and really juice this out a bit more. You know, the 62nd gene key is all about how we use our mind, our intellect, to define our surroundings, our environment, to define everything that we interact with, to kind of take any input that we have, any sensual input, any visual, auditory, etc., to bring that in and then tie it into a fact. And we lock it down in our mind as a fact, and then we try to use those facts that we have created in our mind to battle other people's minds in this kind of glorious battle for supremacy of intelligence. Except when we look at the 62nd gene key, what we discover is that's not really intelligence. That's what we refer to as the shadow of the intellect. Now, the intellect is a powerful tool when it is in service to the heart. But when the mind and the intellect runs rampant and is the one that is leading the charge, that's when we see the shadow of the intellect, which is the behavioral pattern in humanity where we use our mental constructs to protect our hearts. But in doing so, we shut down the connection to our hearts so that we can't feel each other, so that we can't even feel ourselves as we move through this world. And so this is where it's so important to let go of the idea that we know anything for sure, that we let go of driving our personal lives and our collective lives from the mind alone, this very masculine archetype. And going back to that quote, how can you truly love somebody if you think that you know them? If you think about that, think about the people in your life, your family especially. You know, and if I said, do you know your mother, your brother, your father? Then most likely, if you've had a general upbringing, you would say, yeah, of course I know them. I know everything about them. I know all their habits and their behaviors and how they do this and how they do that. And what often happens is we create such a solid structure around how we perceive those that are close to us that we stop learning about them. We stop being able to hear them, hear their evolutionary growth, to discover these new aspects of themselves that are constantly birthing every moment. And when we do that, we start locking them down. Well, it is this person, this is their name, this is their age, this is their color, this is their hair type, this is the clothes they wear, and we dress up this archetype of the person. And we create security in our mind by defining that person, intellectually. But what happens is, if we're not careful, if we're doing this all with the mind without connecting with the heart, then we create this facade of a person. And when we're talking to them, we're not really talking to their heart. We're just talking to a projection of who we think they are. When we listen to what they're sharing to us, they might be offering a gift, they might be sharing an insight or something they've seen or a compliment. And if we're listening to what they're saying through the veil of our mind, through this projection of who we think they are, then we might think that that compliment they're trying to offer is actually an insult or an attack or some form of manipulation, rather than being able to open up to just receive this new impulse from this person. But when we can let go and really surrender the idea that we know anyone, and my son Felix, he's 9 years old now, it's easy to get into this flow every day thinking, oh yeah, it's Felix. But then children are fantastic at reminding us about this. When their mouths open and they have these mind-blowing epiphanies that only the sweet, innocent intelligence of a child can just bubble out, that it blows my mind sometimes. I think, oh boy, I don't know you at all, son. I am the luckiest man alive that I have you in my life to constantly evolve and birth into this world even more and surprise me every day with new layers of who you are as you discover it. And this goes for our loved ones and for all the people in our world and in our workplaces. When we layer these ideas of who we think they are, then we're actually cutting off our heart connection. We're cutting off our ability to receive them fully, to explore them and to discover them, which is the joy of relationships. And you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, whatever, Mark, I know my family. Then I challenge you, do you really even know yourself? And I speak from my journey. I've dedicated my life to understanding myself and exploring who am I. And I stand here in front of you right now and say, I do not know who I am. I've got inklings of it. I've got tastes of what bubbles up, my passions, my joy. But I also can feel that I'm so much more than all the labels I've given myself over the years. My name, my occupation, what I do, how I dress, these are all temporal things that are constantly in flux and changing. Who I am is greater than that. In fact, I dare say that who I am is a part of who you are. It's a part of who all of my loved ones are when we track it all back to the source code. So what I found is that when I surrender this need to know, this need to feel certain about facts and logic and what I know, and driving with my mind, then suddenly my heart begins to step forth. I begin to feel more with my body. And then that's where real intelligence begins to arise, where I'm able to listen to another person from this curious place of the innocence of a child in my heart and hear what they're offering me as if I'm meeting them for the first time every time. And then every single relationship becomes an exquisite playground for creativity. It becomes this alchemical cauldron where we can bring our mixtures and whirl them together. And in that innocence of the witness, to just simply watch it, what happens in that. Not only do I get to learn so much more about you, but then I also get to learn so much more about me in how I react or respond or feel when I hear what you offer. It shows so much to me. It teaches me so much. And so this doesn't just translate to people. You know, I was thinking just before that if we take that quote, how can you truly love life if you think you know what it is? How can you truly enjoy nature in all of its magnificence if you're stuck calling it by its Latin names and all the technical, scientific, factual terms that feel so good and you know, creates this kind of supremacy over the unknown where I can label everything? But then we lose that connection. And when you drop all those labels and you say, I don't really know. I've got this thing we call a tree. I'm surrounded by them. This camera is being held by one. And in these trees, there are stories. Like right behind me here are these incredible little structures that have been built by these sticks. Now there's all kinds of mythical stories that go behind these kinds of structures that you find out there. Now whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. But when we allow the mystery of life to enter in, and when we use our language and our words and our labels not to control and restrict creativity, but when we start to use these words rather as the magical spells they are to create portals of creativity, where we can then begin to become storytellers again, and let our hearts drive and let our minds weave the words and stories in service to the heart's message, then we can begin to create portals, to open up these portals towards the mystery and into different experiences. So for example, this is a portal right here that I could say, oh no, it's just sticks, it fell over, something did this, or someone must have come along. But then there's also the indigenous tales of, you know, the Australian equivalent of Bigfoot, that they come along and do these kinds of things. Now when you allow that, doesn't that feel more exciting? And the logical mind may say, yeah, but it's not real. How do we know? How do we really know anything? And when we allow that magic to happen, our imagination can come alive again. The inner child can explore. And then this great mind of ours can be of service in conceptualizing and bringing it all in so that we can find the gifts and we can all go on these new adventures together of exploring new ways of connecting as humans, new ways of forming collective agreements in how we can really come together and create beautiful alchemy for a new world that we are birthing right now. And one of the most potent places we can begin is in reframing our own language, cleaning up how we speak about things, how we see things. And one of the greatest tools that I've ever come across for this is the Gene Keys work. And that's why I have become an ambassador of the work, because the Gene Keys has been an incredible framework for me to help clean up my words, help clean up my language, and clean up the way that I see the world. And every single day that I work with this, it opens up my heart even more. And I begin to see beyond this intellectual framework of reality, and the mystery begins to show itself. And life has never been more exquisite than it is today. So I offer this contemplation to see, where are you restricting yourself from really discovering the depths of your lovers, of your family, of your workplace, of your life itself, by being so sure about what's in front of you? And what would it be like if you could let all of that go and see it with the eyes of a child? See it beyond your eyes, see it, hear it, feel it. Use all of your senses when you engage with another person. Then you'll start to get to really know them. So thank you for tuning into this contemplation. If you're in Perth, Western Australia, then I've got a workshop coming up next week, Meet the Gene Keys, where it's going to be a one-day event of dropping in and taking this knowledge, wisdom, and really discovering what it's all about and how to drop that into a way of being as opposed to a way of knowing. And I'm super excited about that, so hit me up if you want more information. I'd love to see any comments about your thoughts of this video and anything else along these lines. And I'll see you in the next one.